You're live.
All right, good morning. This is the March 12, 2026 board meeting of the Allegheny County Industrial Development Agency. My name is Doug Frank. I'm the sitting treasurer of the board. I'm going to be chairing the meeting, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. The first thing I'd like to do is to have everyone introduce themselves that's here and online. And as we go around the room, the new board members and John, I'd like to have you say a little bit about yourself, a little background about yourself. The rest of you can just introduce yourself, but we'll start here with Tom. All right.
I'm Tom McElhaney. I'm a registered engineer, been for 40 years. Worked for Clark Patterson Lee for a long time. Did a lot of projects in Allegheny County, did a lot of projects up and down the East Coast. And I'm a resident of Oliver. Grew up in Rushford. So I know a lot of people. Know a lot of things here.
Thanks, Bill.
I'm William Lanier from Independence. Grew up in Whitesville, run a Whitesville Wood Products, have for the last 21 years. And I'm a county legislator from District 3.
Joe.
My name's Joe Hart. I live in Wellsville. I'm a client manager for Siemens Energy. My territory is New York. I've been involved in industrial, either manufacturing or sales for the better part of 25 plus years. I'm married, and my wife Christy and I have 4 adult children.
Barb Benjamin, I'm the operations director for the IDA.
Dan, do you want to go next?
Sure, I'm Dan Spitzer from Hudson Ross, counsel to the IDA. I think this is my 25th year of the honor of serving the IDA. Worked with many of you before in other capacities, and looking forward to working with the new board.
Steve, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Steve Morrow, president at Alfred State College for the past 4 years.
Oh, that's an awful short one, Steve.
Loving father of 2 boys, one who's off to college this year, one who's at Alfred Allman, and married for over 25 years now to my beautiful wife, Melissa, who also works at Alfred Allman. How's that, Craig?
That's better. I'm Craig Clark. I'm sitting off the side, so I've got a couple of computers running. I've been IDA director for 10 years now. So we've been for a while. It's been a very interesting time with the IDA. We can go through that in a little bit, but we're in a very good spot right now. Worked with the college for 35 years, actually over 40 years. Steve was my boss for a number of years. Worked with Tom on many different projects as the mayor of Alfred. Everyone in here I've worked with in some context or Joe. I mean, everybody who I've worked with, obviously the board members. So I think we have a very good board, and we're excited about being able to move forward. So, and I have three sons, and more importantly, 3 grandsons.
I'm Ms. Shore. I'm the assistant director at the IDA. I live in Cuba, and I started here last summer, so I'm the new kid. Well, you guys are too, but and I live with my husband Alex in Cuba, and I have 3 college-age children, one of whom just actually graduated from Alfred U, and the other one is at Alfred U, and my daughter's in school in Manhattan.
Ed Russell, I'm also counsel to the IDA at Hodgson. I joined about 2 years ago, Hodgson, but I've been practicing 26 years representing IDAs throughout the state. I live up in Rochester, and I got 3 kids, 2 in college and 1 in high school.
Terry Ross, retired county treasurer. I was county treasurer for 24 years and worked in the treasurer's office for 42 as a total. Happy to be here. From Angel.
John Rickey, county legislator, District 2 from Cuba. Background's 35 years of DPW, the city of Olean, mainly water, some sewer, roads.
Tim Boyd, Deputy County Administrator for Allegheny County. Feels a little bit like a Wheel of Fortune introduction as we go around. I have 42 years of experience working in county government in Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and 10 years here in New York, working with IDA and a number of other capacities throughout those 10 years. Pleasure to be here and really just sitting on the sideline providing a little bit of support activity from the county as appropriate.
Mike Healy, I'm currently a county legislator for District 2, which includes the Amity, Friendship, Cuba, New Hudson, and Clarksville. I'm a lifelong resident of Allegheny County. I live in the capital there, Belmont. And I've career law enforcement officer, 32 years, and law enforcement, most of which was in the state police and the BCI. Alumni of Elford State. I'm a father of 3 great ladies and 3 grandchildren. And I've supported Elford, both Elford State and Elford University over the years because all my daughters attended both schools before they went on to institutions of higher learning. So welcome on behalf of the county legislature and the chairman, Harris. I think I can welcome everybody. And it was quite the process, and we had a lot of good applicants for the IDA this time, which is always a good thing. I think when you get a lot of good applicants to the board, and you were folks obviously that were selected, and all I can say is we're looking forward to working with all of you.
Okay, again, I'm Doug Frank, and Betty and I have lived in Cuba since 1969. I use these dates so you can't add up how long we've been there. And then I had 51 years in banking here in the county. It was with Citizens National, then Key Bank, and then lastly as a commercial lender with Community Bank. And I retired in 2015, and after that I went to work at St. Bonaventure doing fundraising for 10 years to kind of ease into retirement. And I retired from that at the end of September. Betty and I think I can outdo everybody as far as kids and grandkids here. I have 8 children, Betty and I have 8 children, and we have 18 grandkids. Wow.
You win.
You win.
All right, given that, now that we've introduced ourselves, I want to welcome as well our new board members, Joe, Steve, Tom, Bill, and Carrie. It's great to have you here, and I'm glad to get to know you better. And I also want to, mention that our board members, our former board members, Rich Ewell, Judy Hopkins, and Randy Shaler, for their long-term dedicated service and contributions to the Allegheny County IDA. Thanks again, Rich, Judy, and Randy. It was a pleasure to work with you. So with that, we need to go back and call the meeting to order. And we've already introduced ourselves, so we have to elect myself as a temporary chair. So I'm hoping maybe John would make that motion.
move that.
We have a second
I'll
to that?
second that.
All right, second by Tom. Any further discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so we're the temporary chair. I emphasize temporary. All right.
But hopefully continuing finance chair.
I think, Greg, you want to go into officers going forward?
Yeah, what we,
committee?
very interesting. I was talking to some of you before the beginning of the meeting. It's very a strange time because we have 5 new board members and only 2 existing board members. Usually we transition with 1 or 2 members. It's not a problem. It'll take a while for everybody to understand how we operate and where we go. We're willing to change what we need to change. But we didn't think it'd be appropriate to elect chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary until we at least do each other a little bit and went through a process. So we really need to have a nominating committee set up this time. So at the next board meeting, we can elect the chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. Now, just so you know, those are not permanent positions. Although Doug has done the treasurers for quite a while, they're yearly reappointed by the department, by the board. So if you decide, which I know somebody's got to be chair, it's not a lifelong appointment. It's usually, it depends on how long you want to do it, but it's really only repeats the next time we re-elect officers. Does that make sense? But we do need a chair, secretary, treasurer, And then we also have standing committees. We'll have to have a finance committee. Yeah, you have the.
Just let me go get it.
Yeah,
We'll
once
finish
you
up.
get it.
Yeah, I forgot, sorry.
Okay, we have a form which we'll have all the board members fill out on which position they may want to be on or which board. And then the nominating committee will try to sort through that and then have maybe arm twist some people if we don't have any people that want to do some of those positions. We have to have a finance committee, an audit committee, what's the other one? Governance committee. And I've also recommended we have a building committee because we've decided, and we'll have to confirm that, but we have a contract with CP&L to basically do some design for a new building. And I don't want to be the only person on that building committee or Melissa, we want to have 3 board members. So we'll have 4 committees. We don't do a lot of extra work, and Doug can tell you that. We usually try to make those committee meetings the same day as the full board meeting, right? Or we can do them remotely as well. Any questions on that? Hopefully it makes sense not to do it at the first meeting because that'd be kind of tough to say, okay, let's get a chair.
Yeah.
So that gives you time to think through
Mr.
it.
Chairman, if I could add one thing.
Yes.
One question I often get with new board members, and I want to emphasize this, the Allegheny County IDA has directors and officers liabilities insurance.
Right.
That covers all of you as board members and also as officers. So should you choose to serve further as an officer as well as a member of the board, you are not risking any further liability or other issues. And you are all fully insured for all of your actions taken by the IDA. And we can provide copies of those policies to you if you need them. But that's a question I often get when someone joins the board and then they said, am I insured? And also if I take on the role of an officer, am I taking on any personal liability? The answer is no, you're acting as a member of this board and you are fully covered by our D&O insurance.
So that makes sure everybody wants to be chair, right? So you're covered. So before you leave, or you can send it to us later, doesn't have to be today, but if you could put down what your preferred position and or which committee you'd like to serve on, and then we'll have to review those. So we do have to set up a nominating committee. Do you have any comments, Ed, on that?
Nope, that part of it, so.
Okay.
So Craig, are we going to do the nominating committee now?
We should do that now, or we can do it towards the end of the meeting if you want. It doesn't matter. Just so when we do it, huh?
What did you say?
Just do it now.
Do it now, yeah.
As a kind of a housekeeping issue, because it is important that you guys have officers set up for the next meeting.
Right.
So Craig, do you have ideas?
Well, I usually don't recommend, but I am recommending because we have so many new board members. I would hope that Doug and John, since they've been on the board, would be 2 of those nominating committees, and then we have to have a 3rd person. And it doesn't matter to me, whoever's be willing, Tom.
Okay.
You just got voluntold.
He can
Tom.
see your name. like you went
Or Joe. Joe would do it. Joe volunteered. So Joe, if we recommend one, we have Joe, John, and Doug as nominating committee. Is that okay? If that's okay with the board?
You have to have
Yeah.
a.
You have to have a motion and an election. I'm just making a recommendation. It doesn't matter. I usually don't recommend, but since we have so many new board members, I'm trying to push the button.
So, we need an motion that to
Do we need a motion?
Form a norm, yeah, motion.
To create a
have Joe, John, and Doug to be on the nominating committee. If someone needs that motion.
Thank you, Terry.
Bill? Or Terry?
I'll
Terry?
second.
A second? Any more discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
So you don't have to make those out today, but by the end of the, by the end of the, well, let's see, the beginning of next week, we'd like to have them back so we can start working with the nominating committee. Okay? And you can't fill out with zeros for all of them.
Who do we send it to, Craig? Do we?
You can send it right to me or Melissa, yeah. You've got, I think everybody's got my email, you can send it to me.
All right, the next thing on the agenda is a discussion of the IDA by Ed and Craig, so I'll turn it over to Ed.
Great.
I'll let Ed go forward and
All
I'll
right.
fill in the blanks.
And so, and what probably the most important part was that you're all insured, so that's always good to hear. I just wanted, there are 3 things I want to address. First, kind of what this organization is, get a little background on this and also the other organizations. And then talk a little bit about procedures for the meetings and what the meetings kind of do, typically what the IDAs do. So first off, back when I started 26 years ago, it was basically just the IDA. Over the years, the state has made all sorts of mandates which have required the formation of various other entities because they restricted, or the IDAs were restricted in what they could do. As IDAs became more active in the community, the expansiveness of their operations were not contained within their statute. So they basically had to go out and create other entities with be able to satisfy. So for example, the local development corporations you'll hear about, LDCs, they typically act for like microloan programs where they might own property for liability reasons or things like those instances. Another area is issuing bonds. So IDAs can issue bonds for manufacturing facilities, for example. However, and they used to be able to do them for like when Alfred State or Alfred University needed bond issuance, so for what we call civic facilities. That power was taken away by the state, and now what was created was called the CRC. Other ones call them various other names, but their essential purpose is to just issue bonds for civic facilities. So they are not as active, the CRCs, but they still have a board, they still have a function and a role for this IDA. And the whole purpose of all of this is for economic development. So all these agencies are in line with economic development, and kind of typically the IDA kind of spearheads and helps guides the overall mission for economic development. But these other agencies assist in areas that the IDA legally cannot assist in. So I just wanted to give you that kind of broad overview. And I believe all of you are members of.
Can I mention that? Yeah.
Yeah.
All the IDA board members by statute will be on those other boards. I mentioned that to everyone. And the CRC has only been active for 2 bonds since I've been here for 10 years, one for AU and one for Houghton. And so it really only meets once a year unless there's a bond. And those bonds are not our responsibility.
Correct.
They're directly with Houghton, it's just that they're tax exempt. So we actually do all the legwork to get it done, but we have no liability.
You're a pass-through.
It's a pass-through. So just so you know, we're not bonding a $10 million bond and we're responsible for it. Houghton is responsible for it already.
Yep. And so, and again, you have insurance at all of these levels of carrying insurance for all of those, so you're covered in all aspects in all of those organizations. So kind of, next I just wanted to briefly talk about was what the meeting's about and how we run them. I mean, typically it's kind of modified, what I call modified Robert's rules, because at the end of the day, you're not a large organization. So depending on how the chair wants to run the meeting, he's free to, but generally the idea is when you take official action, there should be a motion in a second. If there's a formal resolution, such as for a project, we usually do those with a roll call. So we get a vote of each of you, so we can record in the minutes how each party voted for that. And then in terms of the purposes of the meetings, again, I'll go back to ancient history. When I first started, it was basically 90% was talking about projects and 10% was about kind of operations and administration. Nowadays, it's almost 50-50, or sometimes there's even more about operations. Over the years, the state has mandated a lot more restrictions. The Authority Budget Office was created by the state to basically oversee all public authorities, which the IDA is part of, and all the other LDCs and associated entities are subject to. So with that comes a lot more regulation and a lot more compliance issues that come up. So we'll have a separate boot camp, which our firm is going to present at, to kind of give you guys an overlay of kind of the responsibilities and roles of board members, and things to look out for. But I just want to give you an update about your roles of board members. Is one, is there going to be operational things that come up related to compliance, governance, operations like with the building, and staffing issues. And your role is not really to run the organization, because that you have to thank your staff to do that. But your role is to oversee that, make sure that the compliance with the budget, that they come with requests, that they're fully vetted, and that essentially the mission of the organization is being moved forward. That's your role, to make sure that the mission of economic development in the county is being moved forward. And then the last piece of it is really projects, and that's the real driving force behind the organization here, is to provide benefits to qualified projects. And they submit, and I just want to run through real quick how this usually goes. Someone in the community, some entity needs some assistance in putting together an addition to the building, because whatever product they're developing is going great, but they don't have the cash to do it. They don't have enough cash flow to be able to just simply get a bank loan and do the whole project themselves. So they come to you with assistance, asking for maybe it's real property taxes exemption, it's sales and use tax, or it's a mortgage recorded tax exemption, or all three. And they'll put together an application The staff and council will review the application, and then if it's worthy, it will be presented to the board. But you can't act on it. Legally, you can't take any action until there's a public hearing. So the next step is the application will be presented, and then the board will be asked to authorize the scheduling of a public hearing. So you're not authorizing the project, you're simply saying, we agree to have a public hearing held, and at this point, that public hearing purpose is for the public to be able to voice and listen, hear about the project, answer, and address any questions that might come up during that process. So then you hold the public hearing, the public hearing goes well, then the company, as long as they complied with all the requirements of the statute and provide council and the staff with all the necessary documents, then we would move to what we call approving resolution or authorizing resolution to be able to grant those benefits. And only at that point are you voting to actually authorize the project. So there'll be two votes, basically one to authorize the opening of public hearing, and then later on, whether it be a month, 2 months, 3 months, however long the process takes, you would vote then on an authorizing resolution for the project. And that's generally how those projects work for that. And I think, Craig, usually you have a presentation by the applicant as well.
The applicant, and that's what we have actually the screen, because quite often they're not local, especially for the solar projects. They may beam in versus coming in person, but we try to make them in person, but they'll usually do a presentation before you actually do the public hearing. So that you know what the project is, you talk to the developer, and you know what's going on. You can ask questions, and quite often it's some very good questions that ask during that time, so that you know more about the project, about the company, what's going on, and that way you know what you're voting on. But you're, again, as Ed says, you're only voting to have a public hearing. And then I have a public hearing, and the fastest you can do then a project is with probably about 6 weeks-ish to 2 months.
Yep.
Sometimes they take longer,
Yep.
but we've done them as fast as 6 weeks, that somebody will give me an application and we'll review it and bring it to the board, do a public hearing, and then do an authorization of the project.
I'm assuming the entity will give a presentation at the public hearing also, right?
They'll be available,
Okay.
and it depends.
Okay, yeah.
They're available to do a short presentation, but they're really there to answer questions. So they'll do a short presentation. On the bigger projects, they've already done presentations to the community, and the smaller ones, they would have, let's say it's especially solar and projects, they've already had all this approved by the town. So they've had many public hearings, as you well know, because
Yes.
you're on the town board. So there's many, then they'll be available for questions more than anything else in the public hearing. Yeah.
Sorry.
Depends on the project.
Are there any public hearings coming up right now, or?
No, we have no outstanding. I've got a list we'll go through, and go through it now if you want. It's in the back of your package. But all, yeah. No,
No, and that was all I wanted to say.
currently we've had a number of projects presented. I've done public hearings and they've been approved by the board, so there's nothing outstanding as far as any applications at this time. Not that we won't have any. We have 4 projects that haven't closed yet, which means we haven't done all the documents. So because after you do the approving resolution, there's some time that the Hodgkin Russ does all the documents, but they don't prepare all the documents until the company's ready to close, because they have to pay the fees to get all that work done. So some of the projects, and there's 2 solar projects that are kind of just on hold. There's a couple other projects that are kind of on hold, and until they're ready to move forward, they don't get the documents prepared. Because that's how we exist, is by fees.
So that was kind of just the brief. There's a lot more, but just for this meeting, I just want to give kind of a high level of what this organization is, and kind of how the board meetings are typically, what the topics are of the board meetings. So, thank you.
Any questions on that overview? So I warned everybody, but don't tell me I didn't. I warned you to be on other committees, other groups. The last group that's not really associated with the IDA, but it is Allegheny County Utility Corporation, and that owns the water line that was put in a number of years ago. We'll go to, that's actually a company separate. It's not part of the ABO system.
I will mention though, just in approving items, one of the items that always comes up with regards to minutes, comes up with whenever new board members join, minutes or ministerial process by which the board authorizes the minutes from the prior meeting. you do not actually have to have participated in the meeting to be able to vote to state that the minutes are hereby authorized. So I'm just giving you, yes, that comes up very often, and otherwise, organizations will be able to function when the whole board turns over, so.
So you can approve the next minutes.
Yeah.
Likewise, if we didn't go that route, John could make the motion and I could second it, couldn't I?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. But anyone, it's, you know, and
Everyone's available to vote in the minutes, even though you weren't present.
And I'll just also say, the purpose behind motions is to get something to the floor so you can have a discussion about it. So just because you move something doesn't mean you've supported it. It has nothing to do with support of it. It's just basically mean you're moving it to allow for a further discussion on the topic. So if you ever feel uncomfortable about an item being brought forward, just because you moved it doesn't mean you voted for it. It just basically means you agree. Because you might feel very strongly against it, but you want to discuss that. So to be able to do that, you move forward. So that's kind of the motion practice.
Okay,
Can I do a couple housekeeping here?
sure.
In your IDA folder, it's the green folder. At the very back, there are two things that we need to have signed.
Last tab, like the brown tab, so it's your last brown. tab.
We sent those out for you previously, and Steve's already signed his. Thank you, Steve.
Sign it, sign it.
It's acknowledgement of your duties and responsibilities on the board. We need that before you leave today,
So
because
in the
we have
green
to have that
folder,
in
the
file.
very back brown flat.
And if you haven't read it, obviously read it.
What's the
That
authority?
first one, is this one?
ACIDA?
The authority, no, the ABO,
I think
they're
he's
the
asking
ones
for
that
this,
govern us.
For this. I
Oh,
think.
down
Yeah,
there,
that's
yeah,
where
that's
you
you,
put
yeah,
the
authority is
ACIDA.
us, yeah, sorry,
On
ACIDA, sorry.
So you're looking for the acknowledgement of fiduciary duties and responsibilities in the sexual harassment policy. And there's a copy of that policy in your board folder, because it does say, I received a copy of this and of the complaint form, which you have in this.
And you
board
can
folder.
have time to read that if you don't want to sign it right now after the meeting, but I need to have it before we leave today, that's all, okay? I sent you that, I know, but you may not have read it yet. That's okay. And then the next part of that, as you're looking through that, is we do have all the IDA projects listed. That's this format. So that's all the existing projects. We have it listed two different ways, one alphabetically and one by date. As you can see, we're very busy for a number of years. Most of the projects are solar or wind projects, not all, but most of them.
This is what we're looking at.
We know you're not gonna get through everything today, but you have it all.
It's fine. I think.
In this one?
No, it's in the green one. It's right behind that.
Let's see, Paul.
Yeah, the spreadsheet basically gives you all the projects we've been working on for mostly the past 10 years, but there are a couple of projects that existed before me. Not many. And in fact, the Acme project actually started with my first project. If you can tell, Melissa's my compliance person.
I enjoy it. I'm such a compliance nerd.
She was, I don't know if she was very clear, she was from human resources most of her life, so she really keeps us,
I was in manufacturing.
dots all the i's and
management.
crosses all the t's.
Yeah, mostly in human resources and operations side, so I like that stuff. But if you have those documents and you want to pass them forward to me, feel free, otherwise you can get it out.
You can go ahead and forward. I just wanted to make sure you knew what was at the back. So those two things I didn't want to forget, because otherwise we're not good. Thank you, Steve, for already sending yours in. Appreciate it. Other than that, it's all yours.
Okay, approval of minutes. You all have a copy of the minutes from the February 12th, 2026 meeting. Again, that John and I were at. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes?
John?
I'll move. I'll move we approve.
And I'll second it. How's that?
Can we have a second to read?
All right.
Yeah, we'll have a chance to read it.
You're
All
quite
in
likely.
favor of approval of the minutes of the February 12th?
Doug, can we have a second reading real quick?
I'm sorry.
Can I read it real quick?
Sure.
I don't like to vote on something.
Well, you'll remember.
You don't know how we do things.
And go back to what you said about.
Yeah, they don't actually have to have been in the witness to approve it, but if a member wants to review something before voting on it, that's appropriate, but.
That is why we send out everything on a Monday.
We did get this.
I know,
I was gonna ask Laura while we wait for that.
sure,
Yeah.
Is there any way to put the packet, hard copy packet before
hard to
the
copy.
meeting, like this packet? Or you guys, do you just have that meeting like the day before?
Usually because of the changes, I do it pretty much the day before. I think I went through like 2 reams of paper.
Oh, because you prefer a hard copy versus,
Yeah,
I
I,
understand.
yeah, I'm a reader, not a computer. It hurts my
Me
eyes.
too.
What we can do is we can print out a copy, and then if there's additions, we can make sure there's still a full copy. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So when we send you the board packet on Monday, if anybody wants to come by and pick up one on Monday, you can pick up a printed copy. Does that make sense?
That would be great. I mean,
Sure.
just for,
We'll just print out exactly what we send to the board. You have a copy of it here. And who else? Bill and Terry?
Yeah.
So we'll print two of those copies, just print them out.
well, even if this is ready, can we just take this and bring it back the next?
Well, like she said, there's sometimes an addition. You know how that goes, Terry.
Especially on the resolutions.
But there's not much, but I'm just saying that way if something, you would have the board package, but we want to make sure you have everything official you're working through in that booklet, so maybe, and we'll tell you if it's different, so there's usually not much, it's only one.
I would say the financials may be different.
Right,
Because I do the checks quite often Monday.
Right.
Once the mail gets here.
but you'll get primarily the same board package printed if you have that, okay? I understand, I don't do very well on the computer myself, I print everything.
Yeah, it's just, I like to write all this stuff down.
Can I ask one question about the BDO zone?
Yes, you can ask.
Is there, because you're proceeding with that, and I know there's an A to a B rating.
Right.
What kind of optimism is there in the county to a rating that's acceptable to developers?
I think pretty high that will be, not the top, but an A rating.
AAA is the highest.
Yeah, AAA.
Yeah, so A, we're hopeful from.
Yeah, because of the fact that we have sites, and I guess we could talk, we'll talk about that when we get to the, on the agenda. Thank you. Yeah, it is on there.
It is on here, yes. You're talking.
Okay, we ready for a vote then on minutes? Joe's okay, right? All right, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the February 12th, 2026 meeting? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Under the treasurer's report, I have some comments on that. I talked to Barb on the way in regarding the balance sheet.
Right.
With the closing of the real estate, we have not made adjustments to the balance sheet yet. That has to be done with our.
It will be.
Right.
Yeah.
So this, the balance sheet still shows, the real estate is being owned by the IDA. Just want to bring that to everybody's attention. And the real estate was sold as of the end of the year, right?
Right, we're still clarifying the last payment. But yes, it's been sold as December 30th, I think it was.
And I'm not gonna go through this, so line by line or anything, but I guess I want to back up and ask you. I talked to Craig and Melissa. We in the past have had 2 motions for parts of the treasurer's report. And I feel that we should just have to have 1 motion for the entire packet.
So you're saying, move, yeah. So
Approve the treasurer's report with those 4 items.
Yes, yes, you can do that.
We always split it up, and I'm not sure why.
No, you can.
That was
do it.
historical.
As long as the board is comfortable with that, you can do that and have the board move and second the entire slate.
And you can still discuss all those items
Yep.
once you have a motion.
All right, so we have the balance sheet and profit and loss statement. Fred, do you have any comments on, the big item is the financial?
No, the big thing is the board members should be very pleased if you look at the very top on the current assets. Because obviously, because we've had some fairly large wind and solar, we're having a large wind project go through. And we did the bonding, you can see overall the total amount of we have in checking and savings is fairly substantial. And one of the things that the audit recommended and we'll be doing this year is we need to make sure we know that in the future and what we're using those monies for, which would be operations as well as potentially investment in the county.
And then over on the income statement, Craig, financial assistance, the $1,651,000, yes, comment on that.
What's that? Which one?
Over on the profit loss statement. On the income. Under IDA income, $1,650,000.
Yeah, that's the one of the payments for the wind project. We broke it into 3 different payments. So we have one more payment coming this year.
That's the profit loss statement, and then there's 2 other, one other report, actually, a combined one. The first one, that transaction with by vendor, that shows the deposit that came in during the month, and then also checks to be paid. So when we're approving this, I have checks behind me here that I'll be signing at the meeting. So you're approving payment of those monies today.
Yeah, what happens is Doug, as a treasurer, and I sign all the checks. They're all double signed. There's no checks that don't go out there, double signature. And actually then Doug checks all the invoices as well as the payments and the bank accounts that are prepared.
And those are my comments on the treasurer's report. Questions?
Can I just ask on the transaction list I got here, is there somewhere in the other reports, the total of what was income and what was expenses? Is that somewhere?
What's that?
Is there like on this report, it shows all the deposits and the bills that you pay. Is there somewhere in here that shows the monthly receipt of income and the monthly expense report? I mean, I just wanted, is that on?
That's the
here?
profit and loss
Is
statement.
that on this statement?
The
This
pro- no,
expenses?
this-
No, that
Profit.
is actually the proposed budget.
This is the budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
the profit and loss statement actually has all the expenses and income on it.
But that's through the first quarter.
Yes.
Yeah, this is by month, right? This is
Right.
monthly.
That one's monthly.
Okay.
Right.
So you can't tell me because this is quarter, or this is not quarter.
That's from the first to the year.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want another one printed out monthly, you can do that.
Well, I just didn't know if maybe you could put on the bottom, what was
Sure.
revenue, what was expense, but
Okay.
maybe that would be helpful.
And I'm sure in QuickBooks, I can play around
We can
and
separate that
figure
out.
things out, run other reports.
I was just curious on the cash flow for the year,
Sure.
you know, what heavy months you have, what not
Okay.
heavy months you have. But that kind of thing, sorry.
And then we do follow through and we'll be reporting on a quarterly basis, if not more often. We have a budget. You have a budget. I included that so that you have that. That's one thing we've traditionally just used the profit and loss statement, expense statement, but we'll also be doing this as well, following through. The
Somebody
one,
might be missing a third page of their budget, because I have 2. So if you don't have lines 85 through 126, I have 2 of those, so I just didn't want to have somebody's extra piece of that. I probably grabbed it. And
Steve, you don't have a copy of the budget, but we'll send you a copy. It was in the packet. We added that. Just so you know, historically, because when I took over 10 years ago, all I can say is we didn't have a bank account. And Terry knows that. So our philosophy is we don't spend any money. We spend very bare minimum, but now we finally have some money and we transitioned to the fact that last year was the first year the IDA had any employees. I came on and Barb came on, and Melissa came on. Up until then, they were all contract employees or supplied by the county. So we have a very different operation. So that's why some of the budgeting things, and by when we come back next month, we may want to make some budget adjustments, because although we made it as best guess we could this year, this is the first year we've had employees, and the first year we've had travel expenses to speak of.
So Craig, do you want to talk about the CDs, kind of going back to the balance sheet for a minute?
Sure.
Want to talk about what we're doing with the CDs and
Yeah, well, we wanted to make sure, at least the short term, that we didn't have money laying in checking accounts, especially the kind of money we had. So if you look on it, we have CDs in there. Most of them are the IDA, the ACUC has a bank account, and there's a checking account, and the CRC does have one CD as well. So they're listed by who they're for. Almost all of them are, the CDs are with ACIDA, or the one is for the CRC. We didn't want to leave those kind of monies laying in the bank account not making interest. So they're in 6 to 12 month, and it says right on here what they are on that page in the balance sheet. And so we'll have to make a decision. We've rolled them over at least once, right? All of them, I think.
There's one that's been rolled over twice now,
Okay.
and then the others at least once, I think. Actually, maybe there's 2 of them that have been.
And they're fully insured because they're through this CDR. CDRs. And so they're fully insured for the full amount. Because that was the other thing, we didn't want to have that kind of money laying around with being insured, because it's real money.
And this month, I do not have the CD statements in the board packet. It's in the folder Doug has. Because Ed brought it to our attention that there is account numbers on there, so we didn't want to send them out or publicize them. So I didn't put them in the board packets, but if you want them in the board packets, I can go back to putting them just in the board packets once I scan to Craig and he sends you guys the copies.
So short term, we just made sure that all of them were making money, all the money was making money. Long term, we have to decide which ones you want to keep in CDs and how long, and then what kind of investments you want to make in the county. And because we are obviously, that's the goal, is now we have money, we can do things as far as land and assistance. And you'll see in there, we'll talk about later in the LDC. The LDC does now have $500,000 in its account because they have a service agreement with the IDA.
as of March 9th, the community bank checking account for the IDA has $901,000. You're gonna leave that in the account, you're not moving anything from that over to the CD.
We should put some of that in the CD, yes.
Possibly.
But I only can do it if the board agrees.
Any other questions on financial? Sure.
So you're coming in at a time we actually have money to do things.
On time.
Well, it only took 10 years to get here, but now we do. Well, it took longer than that, right, Terry?
40.
I know that, but it did take that long. No, she's not being facetious on that.
Who's counting, right?
It's a very different space we're in right now.
We have a motion to approve the treasurer's report as presented. Carrie? Second. Bill, second. Any other discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
Steve said aye as well. You saw him
As
right.
long as I don't hear opposed, I'm doing something.
Okay. We're watching you, Steve.
The next thing is the executive session. We're not going to do one of those.
I don't think we do.
Okay. Then Craig, under the action items.
Yeah, under the action items, I usually do get involved. There's 2 resolutions, and Ed will help me on these 2.
They're in the second brown tab of your folder. I'll label those. We just have a lot of things doing with alternate board members, so I'll label those sections for you.
The resolutions are typically, if they're on a project, Hodgkin Russ draws those up, so there's a lot of legalese in there. But basically, the first resolution is Omni Solar was a project that was approved by the board in 2022, was never built, although it was closed. In other words, all the documents were finalized, and was sold recently to another vendor, which happens with a lot of these solar projects. And now they're actually going to go
supposedly constructed this year. That's what I've been told. And when going through the documents, they clearly articulated in the pilot we had with the previous company, they required, because their application put it in there, that they were gonna have 5 FTE, which means 5 full-time employees on the solar project. Everyone knows, and you know, that doesn't happen. Usually there's 0 people on a solar project. Some of them, if they're bigger ones, maybe a 0.5 to come and manage it and do some lawn mowing. So we need to modify that. So basically that's what that resolution is, modifying it back to 0, right, Ed?
Correct, yep, and the ADO will want to see that if there are changes from the original application that was submitted to the IDA to what is finally approved by the, what basically is closed on, they line up, and if there are changes, then you document the changes and the board is aware of those changes. So that's why we document this resolution, so you can always point to, yes, we understood what happened, and we understand the issue, and we're okay.
Why that's important, if they don't come through with their full-time employment or investment, we can recall some of the money that they've gotten for benefits.
Right.
And we've never had to do that, but that's why we need to make sure we do this, because we'd be in violation of not recalling or doing something because it would meet their goal.
Did the town approve the reduction in manpower?
Yeah, well, everybody knew it was 0, it was a mistake.
And this one should be done by roll call.
Yeah, it's a roll call vote. That's why in the last,
Do you want to say what the motion should be? You want to put the motion on the-
well, the motion should basically be that we approve that. What's the name of the resolution?
Authorizing second modification to basic document.
Resolution authorizing second modification of basic documents for Omni Solar. Because we've already done, the first modification is just transferring ownership.
Do we have a
I'll move that.
motion?
Second.
Second. Is there any more discussion?
I've got a question on a letter from Radio Power, page 2, the top paragraph, where they say, please also note we will be creating a number of part-time jobs. Do we ask them to define what number of part-time jobs is, or we just?
We usually don't, because they don't usually add up to a significant number, like they're not going to be up to a 0.5 or half, there won't be a full 0.5 time, maybe a quarter.
And in here, they still state that they're going to create 5 full-time employment opportunities. But what I'm hearing is they aren't going.
Not on site. That was the confusion with the original company, is that it may result in people, but not on site.
Yeah, so
We only deal with on-site companies.
yeah, the state is very restrictive about that. So you have an entity that might have an operation here and projects here, but they might have people sitting in some other state helping with the operations.
So they count.
And some people wanted to be able to count those, and the state said, no, they have to be on site.
And that's actually what the confusion was on the actual form. It should be clarified that it's on site, and some people read it as employees. It's not employees of the company. What's that? You have a question, Steve? You were already voting, huh?
Any more discussion? John made the motion, Tom seconded it. All right, and this is a roll call.
Correct.
Right.
First on the list is Doug Frank, so I go aye. Joe?
Aye.
Steve?
Steve, do you vote aye?
Steve votes aye.
Yes.
Yes, aye.
Tom?
Thank you.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Terry?
Yes.
The next one is the amended approving resolution from Marine Solar. When through the whole process, Ned can probably discuss more, but we left off one tax parcel on the actual document. Doesn't affect the project. It's actually, the community knows that all the tax parcels are included. But when in doing our documents, we left off one tax parcel, which obviously we can't
To
do
be
that.
clear, we didn't leave one off, the company left. one
Well,
off.
the company left one off, which, thank you.
With these larger projects, it's not uncommon to get this type of modification in particular, the utility company that you're working with often changes what they want in terms of what the subdivision is going to be, what's going to be turned over to them. We do not provide benefits to utilities. So it's not uncommon. I think one of the wind farms we did up in Chautauqua, there were 6 different updates, not unlike this. The important thing is that we're clarifying that this is eligible for tax benefits, but we are not increasing what we offer them as benefits in any way. It's simply a Scrivener's type thing to include this parcel within the ledger of exempt parcels.
Sorry, Dan, I know you wouldn't make a mistake.
Well, hopefully you'll all get to meet Nadine, our partner, Ed and I's partner, who actually puts these together, and she never makes mistakes.
So the biggest thing is if there was a change in benefits, we'd have to do another public hearing, but there was no change in benefits. It's only additional tax parcel.
All right, you want to say that again before I put the motion?
Sure, the motion should be to approve the amended approving resolution for a Moraine Solar Energy Center.
I'd like to make that motion.
Joe? Can we have a second? All right, is there any more discussion? All right, this is a roll call as well. And then Doug votes aye. Joe?
Aye.
Steve?
Steve, you vote aye?
Yes, yeah, aye.
There we go, thank you.
My mute wasn't fast enough.
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
And Terry? Passed.
Thank you. And then what I traditionally do, and I'm hoping it so works on the old business updates, there were an occasional time that we forgot something at the next board meeting, so I try to keep all the old business updates on here until they're dead, or until they're finished. And so, and some of the updates actually aren't always me, but obviously we will go through those things at the old business updates, and they're mostly verbal. On the Crossroads property sale, last December, we sold our 2 buildings here to the county. And part of the process is we have a last payment, and what, you want to explain that, Ed, because you were part of that?
Oh, yeah, so with regards to the county, there was an adjustment that we're working through with the county, and, I think we have agreement on it, but we just have to get signed up from council's office.
So the reason it's still on the agenda, because it hasn't been, it's closed, the document, they own the building, but we haven't done the last payment, reconciliations and things. What happened is they agreed to pick up some of the cost, and obviously it took a while because we couldn't get Suburban Propane to figure out that we didn't own the building. It took us almost 6 weeks, didn't it?
Yeah.
And we still now have a credit.
Craig, for the new board members, do you want to give a brief summary of why we decided to sell the building?
Yeah, we have, well, when I took over, we owned two buildings, the building we're in and the OFA building next door. That building was actually built on behalf of the county. Both were rented. That was rented totally to the county. This one was primarily rented to the county. EMT is in here, planning department's in here, tourism used to be in here. So basically, most of it was rented to the county, correct, Terry?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah. And they rightfully so decided they'd been long enough. They decided that they wanted to buy the building. And so last year, we negotiated that sale, and we finally sold it at the end of the year. So that's one of our big assets, but it was also one of our big headaches because we were landlord. But it worked out fine. I think we have good staff. It's not a big deal. We basically paid all the bills. And once in a while there was a problem, but we took care of it fairly quickly. But we no longer have the landlord role. And part of the agreement is we have our offices for 3 years. And that's why we're talking about building another facility and a place to go to, which we'll talk about, and it's on the agenda. But that's another reason why we have to really start thinking about where we want to go within that 3-year period. We don't want to obviously wait till 3 years and then figure out, we don't know where we're going. Because the county does have master plan to use this building eventually.
Do we have a plan to develop our project and get out?
Yes, we have a, that's what I, that's constant, we can talk about it now. It's under the Gateway Center in Western New York Wilds. We have a map. We own 18 acres across the street, and we've got it. We don't have a final plan, but we have an agreement to do at least a design and figure out what that building would look like.
We've got a timeline for that project.
Well, I'd like to, well, the original, we were gonna get an Appalachian Regional Commission grant to fund part of it, and I'm still working on that. So my guess is we wouldn't break ground until next year. But we would be done before the 3 years is up. This year is planning.
Okay.
Okay.
The EPA brownfield grant?
I'll let Melissa talk about that. She's really running that, more or less. I do sit in all the meetings. She's been to the National Brownfields meeting, and we got into this a number of years ago. It's been on Keir Durlin's plan, as he'll tell you, for 40 years, almost. But after that, Melissa, she's been running this, so she can talk about it.
Sure, so we have an EPA Brownfield Assessment Grant, and it's $500,000, and this $500,000 is specifically designed to allow us as an IDA to work with properties throughout the county to assess the environmental health of the property, right? So there's a phase 1 and a phase 2 opportunity for sites. A phase 1 is an historic, photographic, and visual inspection. It doesn't disturb the site in any way. And we are working with HRP, our environmental consultants, to do the majority of that work. And they go in, they do the phase 1. It turns up any areas of concern, and this gets submitted to the EPA. Once that happens, we decide whether it makes sense for a phase 2. Well, why does either a phase 1 or a phase 2 make sense? Because the property is redevelopable, and it's a suspected brownfield. So it can be suspected because of past use or current, status. It can be a blight. It can be just old enough to have lead and asbestos in it, and then it's brownfield, right? So there's a lot of different ways it can be a brownfield. But we're assessing, as a team, it includes members of the EDO, so Ashley Smith, the Land Bank, Jason Eisenman, Planning, Keir Durlin, and our team, along with HRP and an EPA Program Manager, Esmeralda Vargas. We meet bi-weekly to review our properties to decide which ones are the most developable that make the most sense. The next stage of that is then we need to have cooperation. We don't actually technically need cooperation. We seek cooperation, and we like to work with properties where the owner is amenable to the phase 1. If the phase 1 is done and we can help with a phase 2, which is then actually is a disruptive investigation. They take soil, water, air sampling, and things like that, and do a true environmental health report for that site to determine what the status is, why. Because then a developer, what that report will tell them is exactly what contamination is present on the site, and then they can understand the cost of remediating what's wrong with the site, right? Is it just lead and asbestos in the building? Is it ground contamination? What level? So that's the program. That's what we're doing right now. We've already done, I think we're done with our 4th phase 1. I think 4th phase 1 is done. We have 3 or 4 more sites in the pipeline. We have enough money to do probably 10 to 12 phase 1s, which are anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. They can be less. And then we have enough money to do, depending on the phase 2. If you have heavy metal ground contamination, that's very expensive to test and do all that, so it can be more. If Jason from the Land Bank and we are in partnership doing some properties in Friendship, which truly are that sort of very light end of lead, asbestos, building contamination, then those might be, just 20,000-ish, somewhere in that range, but you can have a $40,000 assessment too, depending on the level. So we can do 3 or 4, maybe 5 phase 2s. So we're right in the middle of that. We were granted the grant in 2024, started the work fully in 2025, and we're continuing. And if you have any sites, you're more than welcome to propose. We have over 200 sites in our inventory right now. Again, we're really looking for sites that you can, but the best sites for you to provide for us are those which have the most potential for redevelopment. That's the goal. Using that money so that we get redevelopment. We can hand a developer a bill of whatever health that site has, and we can understand what the cost is going to be for them to redevelop. The other end of that is very clearly, it's important because people misunderstand this. We do not have any money for cleanup. That's a separate grant. Doesn't mean we won't do that, we'll see in the future, but we do not currently have any money for cleanup. So the main benefits of that phase 1 and phase 2 are then they provide a designation for that site that can then go out and access somewhat, time consuming, but still accessible New York State and federal tax incentives and grant monies to help develop the site, to help, with the investment in the site. So that's the whole point of the phase 1 and phase 2.
What liability does the owner have? He finds out he's got a contaminated project, and then there's
The
no money
first
left to
question,
take it out.
First question everybody asked. So I'd be happy to send you guys the invitation. I don't really answer those technical questions because that's the EPA and our environmental consultant and lawyers, and people put those answers together. So we have a couple of site owners who are interested, and they're going to meet with, it's been a great partnership actually. The head of our team at HRP, Tom Segelchik, and John, I can't remember his last name.
Gorman.
No, Pisek. Well, John Gorman's a member of our team at HRP, but John Pisek from Herkimer.
Okay.
They have a very extensive brownfields program that's decades in now, and they've gotten sites all the way to the point where they've accessed, the credits and the incentives and things. So he's gonna meet with a couple of owners with HRP next Friday at 1 p.m. If any of you would like to participate and ask questions, those are the experts that answer those questions. The EPA has lightened the load for developers. They've made it so that they can protect themselves from liability based on what's done, but it's a specific process.
The biggest thing is if we help them do that before they buy the property, then they're not gonna be liable because they know what was on the site. Yeah.
And that's a bonus.
And that's so key because we have one project where the person
They bought
bought
it and
the
changed
project and did nothing.
Right.
And he is in what you're talking about, a liability issue.
So if you're a bona fide protected purchaser, you get that before you ever buy a
Right.
site,
So
right?
it's good for the buyer, but what about the seller?
That's a good question. So you can be a bona fide protected purchaser, but somebody's gonna be responsible for that
Are most
contamination.
of them, are most of the properties that aren't developable right now that you looked at? Because they know there's some contamination there?
Say that question again, I missed the.
You've got an owner that's allowed you to do the phase 1, phase 2. Is it because he knows that property is probably contaminated and couldn't sell it anyways?
That's the biggest reason people do it, honestly, is because they know there's a problem and they want to be able to access those further incentives by saying, yes, we're gonna recognize it, so then we're gonna clean it up and we're gonna get the tax credits are lucrative if you can access them, and so are some of the grants you can get from New York State and feds, yeah. But there is liability, and those are good questions, so I'll send the invitation to everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to that conference in April. Herkimer does a yearly conference because they have such deep expertise in brownfields, phase 1, phase 2, and cleanup. So we're interested to see what they have to say, and some of our owners can ask those questions.
Were any of the ones at Brownfield in the county that you looked at?
Say that again.
Was there a Brownfield in Allegheny County?
Oh, we have all kinds of brownfields. I mean, we have some that are already
I know
known.
there is.
Yeah, some of the sites people have proposed already even have phase 1.
A lot of them are already listed on DEC website, but not all of them are listed.
And the truth is, it's a brownfield if it's suspected. You can get a brownfield designation just because it's suspected contamination, right? That's how you can get into any program. That's the circular definition says that any known or suspected contamination.
So the grant overall is a pass-through. They're doing the work for us as the EPA grant. We do have some money reimbursement. We're getting some reimbursement for our time. We have about $9,000. We have $4,000 to travel.
Yeah, it covers those conferences.
And we also get about, I think they don't have the number on here. It's 5% of it, $25,000 is for indirect costs. So we're making a little money, not really money, but it's not costing us anything. So most of the cost is passed through. And the most interesting about the EPA, they pay their bills very timely. Within 24 hours.
They get the money the next day. They've been outstanding to work with in a very hard.
We were told that, but I didn't believe it because I've done a lot of grants.
The only hiccup that actually kind of slowed down our first rounds of phase 1 was the government shut down. And then we lost our EPA connection and we couldn't get anything approved. So then once that opened up, it really got moving quickly.
So if you're more interested, we can actually have HRP talk to you directly as a board. They did that when they started working with us.
Well, that's the plan for next Friday, so people can make it. They can, to talk about any questions people might have. And the questions are great and it helps me learn too and be able to answer people's questions. So we'll do that 1 o'clock, the 20th, and I'll send you all an invite if you'd like to join. And in the meantime, I'll send you some of did you send the collateral from the
No.
EPA?
No, that's the HRP is talking to some potential landowners that have all these questions.
Right.
So anybody that wants to will send you an invite if you want to listen to the questions, because it's them telling the landowners just what Tom's asking.
What does it mean to me?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
All right. On to the next item, the RBDG and BD.
The RBDG BD zone, I've called it that because that's what it is called, but it's basically through the USDA. We had EcoStat, they came to us, and USDA has this grant program where you can basically be rated if you can basically host a bio company. And I was telling Bill earlier, it's primarily to using all the wood products that aren't used already for waste woods, basically. Tom knows about it. But we had a kickoff meeting last week, is that right? Right,
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago, it seemed like last week. sorry.
It's been busy.
And primarily, they look at all the potential woody biomass in a region around Belmont, it's within 25, 50 mile zone of what's available. And it's a desk audit, basically. They'll also look at our sites, potential development sites, and then they'll give us a rating. And with that rating, they'll go out and market it to bio companies to see if they will locate in the county. So it's an economic development tool. It doesn't cost us any money. I have $5,000 worth of indirect costs, so my time is counted. It's a $70,000 grant, and the rest of the money is $70,000 that EcoStrat is basically saying they'll market it for us. So by the end of the summer, I think we'll have early fall, we'll have a rating.
Did you say it was just 25 miles
No,
around Belmont?
they have different circles that they basically go 25, 50. And in fact, actually, we did the same thing when we did the biorefinery, because it's closer to actually 100 miles where people will actually bring in product.
Right, so it's a 25-mile zone. I'll send you the legislative report, but it's in there. It's a 25-mile zone around the central point, which will be Belmont for
Right.
us. That's where they're saying is the best likely site for a developer. And then 75 miles now is what they're doing out for a supply zone. And then 125 miles out,
Right.
so is where they're looking at as a competition zone. Who else is out there doing this? Now, to that note, New York has 0 BDO zones right now. There are 62, I think, in the country, 60 or 62, and we have none in New York. We will be the first
You have
BDO rated.
no zones?
No
There's
zones.
no ratings.
No
Not that
ratings.
we don't have a lot of people doing this work, but no ratings to try to attract bio companies to the area.
Right, and so we'd be the first.
And we'll send you actually more of the documents, because they have a PowerPoint slide that explains this whole process, and it gives you, like you said, the zones. And we did this once when I was at Alfred State College, and we were gonna do a biorefinery. We did the same study, and we know there's plenty of material available.
Right.
It's just whether or not it's at the right cost. As you well know, cost is the issue.
Yes.
And if you have the right site.
Right, and they do that at the very end of this study. They literally, their credit rating or their rating report shows what a developer can even expect to get per ton for the raw materials and everything. So it's a really comprehensive study.
And the study they did previously is going to be different than this one because the wood products industry is at a 60-year low
Right,
now compared to when they did that one.
that's right, because we did one before, but this it'll similar as far as the material, but the cost issues will be much different, yeah. So it's an economic development tool, and it didn't cost us anything, and we'll be, like you said, the first one in New York State that we rated. Tom, where did you find out about it?
Well, I read about it after.
Oh, after I-
But I got a friend in Rushford that logged a big area,
Okay,
and he's got all kinds of tops that nobody
What's it gonna do with
wants.
them, right?
Okay.
That's what we're looking
Now,
for.
would a company, would a developer buy those tops from
Yes,
them?
that's the goal.
So there's
Well-
are they saleable, or are they a donated thing to the?
No, they stay by it. It would be saleable, that's the point, is to make that
Tops
extra.
are tough to efficiently get out.
Oh, I know that.
And
That's the
I
problem.
don't see that being
Part of it.
I don't see that being viable myself.
but they'll look at all that and talk to loggers and talk to, do a desk.
Foresters and
I'm gonna have Bill involved because of Whitesville Wood Products, he knows a lot of those people.
But there is a lot of unsaleable lengths as far as that will come out, that could be used. Yes.
That's probably more usable, right?
Yes, and it's just a crown that doesn't make sense to bring out.
Unless they ground them on site or something.
Then they might, yes.
But they would wanna know what's available, so then they could set up that kind of an operation, right? So just so you know, both of these grants and other grants, typically I find out about these conferences we go to. And that's how I found out the microenterprise that we'll talk about a little bit too. It's usually by talking to other people that are already doing this kind of work.
Right.
Gateway Center to the Western New York Wilds. Do you want to add what's going on over there, Tim?
But for those who don't know kind of the workings of this, we do have a very good working relationship with the IDA. It's kind of a partnership with the county and the IDA to develop that tract of land. The county has just recently, or is in the process of submitting a grant application to the state to cover half the cost of County Road 51.
I didn't get that in your map that was talking about.
So that what we'll be able to do is connect County Road 20 all the way around. That would be access to both the hotel, potential restaurant and other facilities. We'll run a water line through there, and it would also provide access to a privately developed housing opportunity with 200 plus units that we'd be able to service for water and sewer that would come through here. So there is a very good,
I'll send you a copy.
a partnership between the two entities. We work closely with the IDA to develop it. It's their property, but we also know we stand to gain financially from any economic opportunities that come out there. It's also integral to our further development and construction of the Public Works Department out at the S-curves. We just received $1.25 million from Representative Langworthy for the construction of the water line to go through the rest of that. We have a grant for housing in the amount of about $3 million to take care of the sewer to go through there. So it's all integral to how this parcel is going to be developed and what we hope will be a real economic boom to the county, because it will also further develop or enhance opportunities for economic growth along that County Road 20 corridor, and also service some potential brownfield sites that we have at the intersection down here that I think there's some pretty big plans for that. So that's where we're at this point in time. We are in the process of working through the application with the Appalachian Regional Commission with the IIJA applications for that money. We have roughly, I think this is about a $7 million project, and we've been able to secure about 56% of that project funding through federal grants, federal and state grants moving forward. I'm very excited. The ground's going to be moving fairly soon on particularly the DPW site. It's moving out there now. The process of making land purchase for the water suppression system that will also feed and is necessary for the development of a hotel along that in that property. I'm not sure how much more you want. I mean, some of you are very familiar with this, some are not at all, but it has been a very fruitful and productive relationship between the two.
And the map I showed you shows Quickly's on the corner, which is already in existence, that they own that piece. All the other land that shows the semi-dotted lines, the IDA owns. And it does show that County Road 51 has been already roughed in.
Correct.
And then this original map, which it needs to be edited, originally we were going to talk about having a wastewater treatment plant on site and a water tank so we could have fire suppression on site. But because of the projects that the county is taking care of, putting a water tank up on the hill and a sewer line that will run down to a small wastewater treatment down at the DPW, those will be facilitated in different ways, so that the fact that the hotel that we've been planning to build, which I have a developer about ready to sign on this summer, his only caveat is he wants to make sure the water and sewer is started. So other
Steve,
than
I
that,
sent that to you in your email if you have access to it. You have it on your email from me.
other than that, we're ready to go. But the county's been very helpful. I mean, they're putting, as John and Bill know, they're putting a lot of money and effort into getting grants and funding of that water and sewer improvements along Route 20. So the water line's already in, there's water, but there's not any fire suppression, and that's where we get a water tank.
Are you all set with that then?
Yeah, it's always good to have
Okay,
Tim fill in where we are on the actual water and sewer.
okay, then
I'm
the,
good with sewer.
Good with sewer.
all right, right, the ARC.
I do not make a copy of it, I'll send out a copy. And I'll print out copies, I apologize. And the ARC Power Grant, what we proposed was to build a facility basically to sell ag products as well as artist products right off in that, and you notice it's on the actual map, marketplace. Has anybody been to the marketplace down in West Virginia? Tamarack?
Yeah.
It's amazing. We'd never be able to do the Tamarack. It's a much bigger facility, the state facility. But it's a vision to be able to have a place to sell artists as well as ag products, not farm products so much, but ag products.
I guess I was watching in Boston, I went to one that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, that kind of a place, but basically a place. And so we had an ARC grant put together. CP&L did a great job, and it's a very big document, so I'll print it out. I won't send it to you because you won't want to. You want to print this one out, Jerry? It's too big. But basically, the grant that we put into the ARC was a power grant. They were going to hopefully supply $2 million. We were going to put in $900,000, which is basically to rebuild our facilities over there, the office space. We got turned down the first time, but we're finding out why we got turned down, and we're going to resubmit that grant. And then we've also talked to the Wilson Foundation, hopefully to get some funds from them. There's no commitment to build the marketplace from the IDA. The only commitment from the IDA was to build our office space, which would be part of the connection to that marketplace. But we did not get the grant, just found out 2 weeks ago, I believe it was. We thought it was a home run because it fit ag, artist, and obviously entrepreneur and economic development, hit all the check boxes. We found out on Monday, talking to Kyle Wilbur, who's our representative at the Department of State for ARC, is that New York State got no power grants this year. So there was a problem, not so much that we weren't ranked high enough, but for some reason, New York State didn't get any. I don't know if it was political or what, but it's unusual because there's 13 states in the Appalachian Regional Commission, and they usually spread the money around. It's much heavier in West Virginia down there where there's much more poverty. I get that. But they usually spread around some in each state. And the college has got a power grant. I got a power grant. So there are power grants available in the state. But for some reason this last year, power grant, none in the ARC. Well, I'll have to talk to you about that, Mike, because.
Well, the one thing that comes to my mind is that they had all the natural disasters down through that area. And that maybe the need was greater
right.
than,
because
I'm sure on a federal level that we're.
So the bad news is we didn't get it. The good news is nobody got it. So I think we got a good shot at getting it the next round. The next round will be submitted here sometime in March or April.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's really soon.
Okay.
We're on to the micro.
I sent you a summary. I don't think we print another one out, but you want to give the summary of how we've done the micro enterprise grant?
Sure, I brought it somewhere.
She brought it.
Oh, well, it's in my, no, I don't have that folder with me. So it was in your email. It's called the micro enterprise, grant update. We have granted, I think at this point, 26 companies, and I embarked on a couple of months long mission when I first started to check in with all those companies and create a bill of health for how the micro enterprise was doing. And it's actually a really fascinating project, and I enjoyed talking to all the small business owners in the county that I did. And we unbelievably came up with the fact that we have 100% retention for all these businesses. It's since 2021, so in our 5th year. They're all still in business. We had a 54% increase in, we have a 54% of our micro enterprise grantees in an expansion mode at this point, trying to grow their businesses because they're doing well. And something like a 50% increase in FTEs. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but you have them.
It's close enough.
It's close, yeah, so a 50% increase in the number of FTEs in these businesses, and all of them were very complimentary of the program. What happens is that they submit an application once funding is open, and they submit the application to us. We work with Mike Zimmerman, if you Harrison Studios to vet the applications. And Mike, did you want to say something? Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay. Wait, thought you were asking. So to vet the applications and choose who gets the microenterprise grants, they're up to $35,000 a piece. People mostly use them for equipment purchases and business expansion. They're meant to support the business, but not necessarily fund operations, which is something we need those businesses to be viable to do on their own, right? And it has been very successful. I mean, people have to go through either Incubator Works or CORD. It's a 6-week program to make sure they have a solid business plan and a solid operating plan for that business for a 3 to 5 year period. And that, again, the feedback from everybody was very complimentary that those programs were really valuable to them. Because a lot of times you have to check these boxes, dot these I's, and cross these T's, and it's just because you want the money. But actually, to a man and woman that I talked to, everyone said they were really valuable, and that Jeff and the team at Accord and Ashley and the other teams, and I don't know who else runs Incubator Works, but Kim, that whole team at Incubator Works, they said it was very valuable experience for them and really helped them make their business better.
This is a CBDG grant that Carrie's very, because she has to sign off on it.
It's actually the county's grant. We're
County's
just
grant.
the administrator.
We manage it and administrate it, and I know when we first started, everybody was concerned about process, but I think it's worked fairly well. Basically, the Zimmerman Group Harrison Studio do a very good job of all the documentation. So primarily, they send the documentation to CBDG, they get the money goes through the county, then we cut the checks, and there's a whole follow through and a process. So basically, it's a pass through, but it's a very good program for companies that are 5 and smaller, and they can get up to $35,000. It's made a huge difference because it's capital. It can be some supplies, no construction. So if you know of a company locally that's looking to do that, we'll be opening hopefully another round sometime in the summer. We've done 3 phases now, so we've given out, first was $250,000, then another $300,000 chunk, $600,000.
Right.
So we've given out a lot of money.
$680,000 at this point.
Yeah. So we've given out a lot of money.
And $35,000 chunks, it supports a lot of business.
Is it mainly manufacturing type
No.
stuff?
No, it's all
In fact,
over
it's
the
not.
Restaurant?
It's ag and
Restaurants,
manufacturing
all
and
kinds.
restaurants and retail, it's everything.
It's in the report, some examples. We give you the full list of all the companies.
Important to note that one of the requirements is you must create an LTM job, so a low to moderate income job. You must, whether you're the business owner will be low to moderate income, which I think is about $56,000 per year right now in New York State. You must create an LTM job as part of that. So you have to be 5 or fewer, create an LTM job, and use the money for capital or business support that isn't real estate or remodeling.
But I and nobody expected that 100% of the companies would still be in existence.
Right. Yeah.
That's unusual. So we picked the right Mike Zimmerman, and you'll hear from him sometime. He's the one in Harrison Studio. He really put them through the ringers. I can tell you the ones that make it to the last approval process, they have a good business plan, right, Doug?
That's correct.
Because even Doug says these are better business plans than I ever saw as a banker.
So right now, that money is in Congress for approval. So the Office of Community Renewal, if you hear OCR, that's it's a community development block grant, but the Office of Community Renewal is the one that administers it, and they're waiting for Congress to approve the funding. They expect that they will. It's always slow, so we're just waiting for that.
But that's why it works so well, because with that extra step that Mike does.
True.
Yeah.
And according to Incubator Works, really, that's a great program. Any questions?
Yeah, for the size of the grants, it's very, very thorough.
Yeah, isn't it?
Excellent job.
Do we advertise?
Yes.
these grants?
Yes, we advertise it, we put it in the paper, we do other things, we do it on Facebook, we
And our
let people
Facebook
know.
and-
And actually, we've been doing it long enough now.
Workshops or anything like that?
What's that?
Any workshops or anything like that?
But is that, ask for
It's
someone-
probably time we could do a workshop, but
With
that's a good
reference
idea.
to a local, maybe North County, South
Sure.
County.
Oh, gotcha. Like give people and explaining them the grant on.
I think a
that.
workshop would be a good idea, but I can tell you right now, we typically, since even the first round, we get more people asking us. But I know that's been a question on the board a couple times, is how do people know? And they may have missed the newspaper, they may have missed the Facebook, but
Well,
it's
there are no
posted.
newspapers now.
Yeah,
I think word of mouth helps with that.
Yeah,
So much.
that's what's actually happened,
Yeah.
because now people know about it. We have a long list of people.
Well, and
But I think
Incubator Works
having
and
at
Accord.
least one workshop or maybe 2, so
Would be helpful, yeah.
helpful, yeah, that's a good idea.
the incubator works in Accord also end up sending people away because people approach them for
Well,
business support. And they say, "Oh,
Actually,
there's a grant."
Incubator Works and Accord have had more people show up for the workshops because they know that they're eligible for the micro. So they do a lot of the actual advertising too.
That's a great.
But it is word of mouth through them.
Okay, on to the Allegheny County Strategic Plan.
I did not send that because I don't want to kill you with paper, but there's an economic development plan for the whole county that was developed a couple years ago. And I worked closely with Ashley Smith, who's the county economic developer, and she has an EDO. And we have a long PowerPoint, which I'll send to you, which shows how we're working together. Won't go through the full discussion today, but I'll send you that out and I'll print a copy out too. That one, you know you don't want to print out, right, Terry? Because it's really big. It's well over 100 pages. That one you don't want to print again, I can tell you. But I've got a short version that shows how we are doing, working with the county and who's doing what. And that's what I'll send you, the shorter version.
I mean, it's been a really great partnership. I was at the Cuba Chamber of Commerce dinner on last Friday night, and Michelle and Ashley, the head of the Economic Development Organization, and her, I don't know, she's a deputy. Is Michelle called a deputy?
Michelle's deputy.
She's deputy. I don't know. We're assistants, so I'm not sure. They were at that dinner as well, introduced me to a couple business owners right at the dinner. So it's a really good partnership,
And we're doing co-things, like we're doing a manufacturing day coming up that we co-host. So we do some things together.
And we've rebooted the manufacturing roundtable as a team.
Right.
And we'll be on our third meeting coming up soon.
And we're looking for a chair, Joe.
I've already done that.
Just teasing you, you know that, Joe.
The energy project.
Like I said, the only clean energy project right now that's in the closing stages is the marine solar. We just did that already. They're already doing construction. They're gonna go full bore this summer on actually putting up panels and things. It's over 500 to 600 acre of PVs. It's a lot. It's not like the small ones you've been doing down in Independence. So they already cleared most of the land. So it's a big project. You will notice it. Yes.
That's kind of burnt, right?
Kind of burnt, yes, sir.
I have just a quick question for you. I've seen that some of these energy sharing consortiums are starting to fall apart. Not to sound political, but they're citing the big beautiful bill as the result of the declining tax credits for that. So do you have any concerns with some of
Dan's the expert on that. Dan, do you have any concerns about the tax credits and slowing down solar and wind projects?
It depends on the particular consortium and what their source of revenues are. So the two largest ones in New York, one run by Erie BOCES and then another one run by municipalities, are literally purchasing organizations that were set up for schools and municipalities to originally buy gas during some gas crises, and they also sell electricity. Those two are still going strong, and but they're not dependent on the tax credits. In terms of the tax credits, there are a lot of projects that are going to lose their solar credits. Some states like New York and California are already refocusing their incentives to make up for that shortage. We're also seeing some of these switch. Frankly, a lot of the capital is moving over to energy storage for just that reason, that take advantage of what the big beautiful bill still does. So to the extent we see solar-oriented ones that have not yet built the system, you're losing a large share of investor revenues with the decline in ITC availability. This is not the first time that the ITC has actually gone away over the, let's say, the last 25 years. So whether or not it has an impact, we don't know. But I think it's a good point that if you have a solar-oriented one and they haven't got projects that are going to meet the safe harbor dates, then it's likely that such an organization would slow down in terms of its development simply because the ITC is such an important part of the revenue stream under the current models.
Yeah,
That help?
Yeah, that helps. I just wanted to kind of raise that point so that the IDA could make sure their eyes are fully focused on what's happening and the potential down the road. So, yeah, thanks for the clarification.
Good point.
Dan, can I ask a question too on that? The ability of the power authority to take all the power, is that gonna hinder the development of future solar and wind? If, I know that the power authority doesn't have a lot of space, or they don't have a lot of infrastructure to handle all the solar and wind projects. Do you think that's gonna affect the continuation of those projects here around the state?
It won't affect the continuation of these projects at all. What it is there was a movement started about 3 or 4 years ago in the legislature by progressive members of the legislature to get the New York Power Authority involved in renewables. I remember being on a panel with one member of the legislature who said it's time we got into the New York Power Authority into renewables. And I looked and I said, you do know the New York Power Authority owns 2 of the largest hydro plants in the world, right? And several nuclear facilities. But they created a C&I division within NYPA. They changed NYPA's enabling statutes to get them into projects. For the most part, though, that has no impact on any current project. Since NYPA does not necessarily care about the IPC, which was previously mentioned, their efforts should not slow down. They are continuing to press forward with projects. They've awarded a number of projects. And I don't think that NYPA's role would cause a negative impact at all. I think it's just basically, it would be nice, frankly, if NYPA had more generating facilities. Right. Then we could see the municipalities like Wellsville receive more municipal power at low cost. But I don't think NYPA's, if you will, competition is going to take over anything existing or edge out any of the market-based ones that are moving forward. Does that help answer the question?
Yes, it does. I also, piggybacking on that is the fact that you mentioned the solar farms are becoming more of a storage facility. Is that because of the lack of infrastructure with the Power Authority?
It has nothing to do with the Power Authority, simply taking advantage of A, the tax credits, and B, solar and wind are both intermittent resources. You can't really use them as base load power because you can't count on them 24/7. And so storage makes up the difference by allowing you to keep the electrons until you need them. So for example, with a wind-based system, the wind really blows the most at night. So you charge up at night and then you discharge at the time when energy is most needed, which is generally 2 to 6 p.m. On weekdays. As you move to a more electrified economy, and particularly if people do switch from gas to electric for heating, that curve will even out in terms of the time when it's needed. But the key point of storage is it can also provide a lot of services to the grid besides simply storing generation. It can provide frequency regulation. It can provide black stars. There's a lot of ancillary services that come with storage that help the utilities to operate the system. They also can reduce the need. So let's say you need more power in an area. Instead, you build storage, then you don't have to build a new substation theoretically. You don't have to build a new generating facility. And so storage can help reduce the capital cost. And utilities, all these costs, like the high gas costs that we're about to see, all get passed through on bills. What you pay a utility for and its profit is all based on its rate base, which is what its capital is. So if you have storage built, and therefore it alleviates the need for new substations, new transmission, new generating facilities, this is what's called a non-wired solution. And it reduces theoretically the cost of providing electric service across the state. It should not, NYPA is not yet, I think, supporting any storage projects, although interestingly, NYPA actually owns the largest storage project in the state. It's the Blenheim-Gilboa pumped hydro storage facility. And so NYPA does own some, but NYPA's role is not going to change that. Because the big beautiful bill emphasized tax credits for storage, you're now going to see a real flood, and we're already seeing a flood of private money into energy storage. A lot of the solar companies are pivoting to either add storage to the project or become fully storage projects instead. And that's going to really support the grid resiliency and also deal with the, if we want more renewables on, we need to deal with the fact that it's an intermittent resource. And the New York State Energy Plan, which is theoretically the overriding document, still calls for a transition to renewables as soon as possible.
And I'm gonna bug you with one more question, Dan. My other question is production reports of the ones that we have within the county. Does IDA, do we get any kind of production reports on how much energy is being produced at those sites? And, just kind of, I think that's something important that maybe we could say, to justify all of them, is this is the amount of, production we've got for renewable energy versus what we don't produce, I guess. Is that a possibility to get from those companies?
Well, we certainly can ask them. So the companies themselves are required to submit a form each April called the RPTL 575A, which lists all their production, their revenues and expenses, and they send that into the tax department, which theoretically uses it as part of the assessment process. I don't believe that local assessors get those, but there's certainly no reason why we couldn't ask the companies. For example, if you have a 5 megawatt solar project, it's not producing 5 megawatts. It's producing a percentage of that. Generally for solar, it's about 30 to 33% on average. And we certainly could send them a questionnaire and ask them. Some of them may consider it confidential proprietary information, but we could certainly aggregate it without listing any names. I think Melissa in the annual report did a really nice job of trying to talk about the total of the projects. But it's a great question, and we certainly could ask that. And I don't know why the companies wouldn't want to share what they're doing in terms of, some of them listed in terms of megawatts. They tend to list it in things like the number of homes that are served by their system, something that people can equate to. But I think it's a great idea to ask them.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to see what kind of production we've got going on with the ones we have to justify, the exemptions we are giving them.
Yeah, this is Tom McElwain. I'm on a board at Houghton University, and we're experiencing power surges and brownouts. And I got some information from some of the people at RG&E. The fields are not being controlled about a steady flow of electric, but on a sunny day, they may dump more than what they can do. And it cost the university quite a few dollars just before Christmas to replace a lot of high-end computer equipment. Have you heard of any of that going on anyplace else? It's the old line that goes from the southern tier to Rochester or wherever it's headed.
So the attachment of renewables and others to the grid is all regulated by the North American Reliability. It's called NRUC, sets the rules. Then the federal government makes that law, as does the New York ISO. And no generator should be creating surges at the university. That's an RG&E issue, to be perfectly blunt, and not the first one I've heard about RG&E. I think the village of Wellsville, when we put in a new power line there, which was donated to the village by the landfill, we had to do something like $750,000 worth of upgrades to the RG&E system that was attached to the village in order to get an upgraded power line that was taking advantage of the landfill gas. And again, as I said, the village got a new power line out of it. But the utility is responsible for providing a certain voltage within certain amounts at the interconnection point with the university. We could certainly talk to the university about ways of what caused those surges. When I was in Arizona as a finance director, we had a local utility, was actually a co-op. It was not the most sophisticated co-op, and we literally, for our computer equipment, had to buy uniform power supplies. And what a uniform power supply does is it cleans up the energy coming into your facility to protect computer equipment, because we kept getting, our Xerox machines kept getting blown out. And so to protect our computers, we bought these UPSs, and they solved our problem for us. But the problem was the energy coming in from the utility. And we can talk to the university about getting the Public Service Commission involved if in fact RG&E is trying to say it's somebody other than them. But it's RG&E's responsibility. They are not supposed to hook anybody up to their system unless the generator meets the requirements. There is certainly no question that the advent of solar panels and wind, whether they're on your roof or whether they're a standalone system, has made things more difficult for utilities. If you think about a utility before renewables, the same way as a water system, the job was simply to push water to out, and so everybody got the same amount of water. And the utilities used to push electrons out so that it came to your house somewhere between 100 and I think it's 112 and 124 volts was what they were required to provide. So now instead you have a system where certain generators are adding into the system at different times and at different levels. You have a day ahead understanding at best of the installation. You have people who have roof panels, and you have some people who are taking energy and some people giving energy. It's a far more complicated system. And this is one of the particular reasons when we talk about the grid needing to be upgraded, and the massive amounts of money that are being spent by developers mostly, not by the utility or the ratepayers, to upgrade substations that is to handle all of this. But we certainly can be happy to have a phone call with the University of Utah to talk about that with a couple of our experts. Because the responsibility for providing energy in accordance with PSC regulations and NICE regulations is RGV's.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. We know when Dan's on, it's gonna be a long meeting. He is the expert on this area, so.
Craig, we have one more item.
The only last item is, and I probably will not put this on anymore, is I thought I left it on this board meeting so that the board knows what happened last year is Great Lakes Cheese donated the Great Lakes Cheese facility in Cuba to the IDA, which the IDA turned it over to a developer. And it's the same developer who owns the Wellsville Business Park. And just so you know, I'll report when it happens. We have a potential customer that's looking to fill half that space. It's 150,000 square feet. So I think manufacturing, yes.
Yeah.
So I just thought you should know that we were in the intermediary to get that donation. If not, they were probably going to raise the whole building.
Just so we don't get in any legal trouble, technically the LDC
Yeah, went through the LDC.
was the legal entity.
Yeah, it
We're
was
not
donated
allowed.
to the IDA. We could not actually donate it. Then we turned it over to the LDC, who donated it to basically to the. So it was a process, as Ed was involved.
Okay.
So I just thought you should know that we were the intermediary, but we don't own it. It was only a temporary thing, so that we could process it. So now that the developer owns and manages it, it's responsible for it. So, and we're working with them pretty heavily. We have someone that's pretty close to signing a lease for half the facility with about 40 jobs.
And that would be like a $2.9 million investment between the manufacturer and the owner, so we're really hopeful that happens, so they work for your economic development gods.
So that won't be on here again unless we have some action, but I just thought, I left it on this board so that people knew that happened last year. It's in our annual report as well, that it went through the IDA.
Yeah, and we don't want to kid the new members. Sometimes these meetings go beyond this.
Well, we try to stay to the two, we'll wait.
We got two more.
Yeah, but those are short, so we'll be okay.
All right.
Unless Dan talks again.
Oh, ouch. Fighting words.
All right, we ready for new business? Anybody have any new business? All right, Melissa?
I have nothing. I just want to welcome the board. I think it's going to be a good board. Already asked good questions and keep doing that. That's what we want, an active board that asks questions.
All right, go to the order. Tim, you have anything?
No.
Mike?
No, just echo your sentiments that began the meeting about the outgoing members. Know them all very well. On behalf of the chairman of the board and the county legislature, I also want to thank them for their many years of good service at the IDA and all people that applied to be on the board and people who actually have been selected for their willingness for their willingness to serve the greater good of the county. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion for adjournment.
I'll move.
John, second that.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
We're back live, so now you can open that meeting. Oops, just a minute, didn't hit it. Yeah, we're live, it's green.
All right, now we're gonna open up the meeting for the Allegheny County Local Development Corporation, for March 12, 2026. On the agenda, we have to go through and have me elected as the temporary chair. This is Doug Frank again. I'd like to have a motion.
I'll move that.
John, second. All right, motion has been made and seconded to appoint me as temporary chair. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Vote. So we're gonna have a discussion. Ed, is this your role again?
ACIDA operations.
Yeah, I mean,
Operations?
Pretty brief, go ahead.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned, this is an organization, similar to the IDA, Central Convenience Law, Oil, all the rest. The main thrust of this organization is really doing loans, micro enterprise loans, and any other type of economic activity the IDA otherwise can't do. There's a little more flexibility with LDCs versus IDAs, just by the way they're formed. So this is a new entity that was formed. And as was mentioned, for example, the cheese factory passed through it momentarily on its way out. But for example, if you ever needed to own a facility, typically the LDCs is a better place to put that versus the IDA for liability reasons. So.
And now that we have an LDC, it's probably the better place to do some of the grants because they have more flexibility. They can actually not only do loans, but they can do grants, whereas the IDA cannot do that. They can only do what we're authorized to do. So we have a full set of documents for doing loans. We have not at this time have any loans to bring forward to the LDC, but I know Melissa's working on those. We're pre-screening them to the point that we would only bring back to something to the LDC that's already been pre-screened that we think makes sense. We're not going to be primary on a loan. It'd be secondary. They're low interest loans to help fill gaps when people have things, but they're not high volume loans either. They're talking $300,000 to $100,000. They may approach larger for a larger project, but they're not going to be big loans.
And we haven't had much activity.
We have actually had quite a bit. We've had 20 plus inquiries since the beginning of the year, since we first opened. We have 2 active applications, but to Craig's point, neither of them is at a point where they're cleaned up enough that would make any sense to present them to you. They have to be complete, they have to be viable, and we're still trying.
And they have to have a companion bank loan. They have to have a process that they know that we're going to be a gap loan and that we're not to that stage.
So once everything is in place on a loan, then you'll get that application. And we have another 2 that are supposedly coming to me in the next week, but tons of interest. So,
And we may want to set up a separate, smaller committee to help do some of the think about that at the next meeting.
Yeah,
We had talked about that, having a couple of people work with Melissa and myself so that the full board doesn't really have to pre-screen them. But they would know when it came ready that it's been looked at by a couple of board members as well.
All right, the other thing we talked about, Craig and Melissa, was to work with the banks, to meet with the banks.
Right.
Because that's
they
probably
could
where you're
offer
gonna,
us as a secondary.
yeah, that's probably where you're gonna get your more quality credits from
Right.
one of the banks is doing some lending and they need secondary finance.
That actually happens with Stito, the one that out through Southern Tier West. They actually have a direct link with the banks, like Community Bank and some of the
We should
local
set
banks.
that up.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
So it's really more information, except for we do have to approve the financial report, which basically we cut one check.
In the minutes. In the minutes.
So it hasn't been signed by Doug yet because we haven't approved it.
All right, on to the minutes.
And what, yeah, in minutes after the minutes.
Anyway, February 12th, or in the packet.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Very.
You'll see they're short minutes because they've been short
Second
meetings.
to that.
I'll second.
John, is a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There's no executive committee this meeting.
No executive, and then the treasurer's report is.
We did cut one check because now that they have funds, they're going to have to pay their own way. So basically that one check is some work that Hodgkin Rust did for the LDC. It's basically making sure that they not only have not-for-profit, but it's not-for-profit for the state, right? That was the last one?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And some
The state
policy,
violence.
on policy,
Policy
policy
work.
provider, yeah.
Oh, right. Yep.
All right, we have any questions on the treasurer's report? We have a motion to approve the treasurer.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer.
Joe. Second. Terry. Any more discussion on that? All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
So
We kind of took the action on it.
We've already covered.
we've already kind of done the loan inquiry application process, we just discussed it. And I think by the next board meeting, when we set the officers, we should set up a subcommittee that basically helps look through those loans.
We wouldn't use the finance committee?
Yeah, we can use the finance
Yeah, we
committee.
could just instead of a
That's
separate
fine.
committee, yeah.
But you should know that that's what we're gonna be doing, so that you know ahead of
You
time
know.
that there would be, there's not gonna be a lot, because they'll be pre-screened yet with myself and Melissa, so that you're only getting ones that are ready to look through.
All right, any old business? And new business? Any of that? Go to the order. We have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Terry? Bill? second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Do we leave folders here?
Yeah, you guys were out of the room. The housekeeping is you take your book, but you empty your folders, take your